Welcome to Theory Paranormal. This is Pax with my co-host Dalton. This is going to be podcast number 12 of season 2. It is going to be on apparitions and energies and spirits. Can they travel to different locations? And also it's going to be on the second segment of why me and Dalton personally got into the paranormal and what we enjoy and like about it. So, with that being said, we wanted to welcome all the new listeners that have been listening to Theory Paranormal on YouTube Music and on YouTube and on Pandora Radio. So, welcome to Theory Paranormal. We hope you enjoy it. So, Dalton, how's life been in your neck of the woods?
Oh man, I'm people are gonna get tired of me saying this. Same old man, same old stuff. Nothing ever changes.
Hey, the world goes round, and yet here we are.
That's right.
So, doing another wonderful podcast. So
it's always a good break from monotony.
Oh, it is. It is. So we had a individual ask us a question of what our thoughts were about hauntings, and they see stuff on TV and it's always about energy or spirit or something that's at a house or a home. And they wanted to know, what is the viability, or have we ever experienced in our investigations and research, has a individual or family ever moved from one home to another, or maybe one state to another, and they were trying to get away from something, and then they noticed when they got to the new place, after some time, the same exact thing started happening again. So we are going to discuss that, and we're both going to give our opinions and some of our experience, and let the listeners know from our experience how that went. So before we get into the experience part, Dalton, do you think it's feasible, and do you think it's possible for things to travel locations and spark up the same things that they do?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we've talked about it briefly, but it's if that entity or spirit, or let's just say it doesn't even necessarily have to be an entity or spirit. It could be just energy. It could be a dark energy. It could be a good energy. It could be something, just some energy that's floating around. But as far as the question of spirits and ghosts, entities, whatever, yeah, because they attach themselves. And when you talk about attachment, that does not necessarily mean a person. It could be attached to an item that, let's say, said people that are moving went to a garage sale and bought, and didn't realize that the painting they bought, there's a spirit attached to it. And in that case, when you bring it home, of course, after over time, things will happen. And so if you move and you take that said painting, or it could have been a doll, it could be anything. One of the most common things that we find is the objects, or what will enable the spirit to travel to the other location. Now, rarely have I encountered, we have encountered, but rarely have we encountered, or I don't know about you, but rarely have I encountered an entity that attached itself to an actual person while living in a residence or an apartment or whatever. And then them not moving necessarily. I don't want to get it to where everybody's moving just to get away from ghosts. No, they could be just moving for a job. They could be moving because the rent got too high, doing whatever. But anyway, they moved. And I've seen more rare occasions of entities. Now I'm speaking about entities and ghosts, not energy, but entities and ghosts, spirits. Rare occasion that they actually follow the person to another location, because previous to what I said in another podcast, that person that is in that area, that's where they're strongest. It seems to be in our research. The spirit is stronger there because it either passed there, or it used to live around there or whatever. Its energy is just more powerful right there. So when it goes away from there, it's not as strong. And I've never seen where an entity would leave and follow somebody and then try to regain the strength that it had where it was. So it's pretty much going to stay there. Now, as far as the painting is concerned, you're talking about an object to where you're taking that physical object that that person loved or adored. It was something special in their life. Somebody painted it and gave it to them. Now you're taking the energy source with you, if that makes sense. So you're basically they're allowed to follow you and they'll maintain the same energy in the new place. So when you hang the painting up, yes, then you get into a reoccurrence of things happening as though they did in the last place because you don't know that you just took the energy source with you to where they feel the strongest. Now, taking a whole house or an apartment or something is not going to happen unless you live in a mobile home and you're relocating that mobile home to a new piece of land or something, then possibly. But that's again very rare. So I just want to say that energy, energy is a whole nother form because it's energy. And if you walk through it, if you walk through an imprint or you walk through some kind of energy and it attaches it to you, then yes, that could follow you from point A to point B because it's not actually an entity or a spirit worrying about how strong or weak it's going to be depending on what place it's going to be at. But that energy already has strength, so it attaches to you, and that dark energy or the light energy, whatever kind of energy it is, follows you to another place. And then the same things could happen to you. You could be having a run of bad luck. You could have a run of good luck, or you got things that are happening to you that you just don't understand. So technically, energy sources can, but very rare do I see an entity follow somebody from one place to the next because they're more powerful. If you just want to say that in layman's terms, they're just more powerful where they were because that's their where they're happy. They either passed away there or they know somebody lived there. That's their happy place, and they're not going to leave it. So that's a rarity. But anyway, I hope that makes sense to you.
Actually, could you just start
Whoever
from the
the
beginning again? That way I can have a better chance of understanding. I'm just joking.
please don't. I'm just trying to answer that dude. Was it a female or a guy who asked the question?
Actually, it was agnostic. It was just a message that came in and just said, "Hey, this is something I've always wondered, and if we could give clarity on it." So appreciate the
Okay,
question.
kind of. Yeah.
So,
What's your thoughts on it?
well, I think it could be a multitude of things. I think, to go along the style of what you said, things stay at one location and don't necessarily travel. And the person can pick up and go somewhere else, live somewhere else, and things, balance out or quiet or normal. I think that's a possibility, yes. As far as it goes with items, physical things that can have associations to all sorts of energy, bad, good, neutral, whatever you want to call it, bringing things with you, I believe that potentially could invite things to be attracted to it, like a magnet, and that could interact with the individual that's being affected. I also believe, to a degree, the power of thought and someone's own personal disposition of their mindset of, how you may have heard the phrase mind over matter or projection of, people say project good vibes, think positive. Well, I think when an individual has emotions or feelings and they project it, they will it, they want it, they put it out there in the universe, as it's called. I think that's also a way as a calling card, like a beacon in the dark to put out your footprint. So I've used this analogy in the past, but let's say it's a dark night, it's on the coast, and you got a lighthouse, and the light comes around, and then wherever you are in the water, you can see where the lighthouse is. I think that's kind of how it is when people project energy without even realizing it, that it kind of puts you on the game board or the map and lets other things know where you're at. Bad, good, indifferent, right, wrong, whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as the hows and whys people are affected by energy or spirits or things we can't even put a name on, that don't even, there's no definition on. What I'm getting at, though, is being affected by something at a location and going to another location and having it reoccur again. I don't call that a coincidence. I don't call that irony. If it same exact experiences are happening at another location, then that is willful intent. And you asked, if I've ever experienced that before or knew of this. I have had some investigations where people moved into a brand new house and even a used home, because I've had a few different cases like this. And yes, indeed, things did happen, not on a malevolent, evilish level, but small things. Maybe a certain type of smell in the air, like a cologne or a perfume, or maybe hearing something, music or a voice that's not there, that, making you question reality. It's like, did I really hear that? Asking somebody, hey, did you hear that? Or did that sound like, somebody I used to know that passed away? These type of things, from my experience, are more common than not. And after some investigation, looking into the scenarios and really drilling down and digging down into the history of these individuals and personal experiences and unfortunately deaths in either the immediate family or knowing of friends or loved ones that passed away, then there was a correlation. And sometimes it was about trying to pass a message along. Sometimes it was just trying to be informative, so that way the people that were being affected, that were living, it was just a signature key way of saying, hey, I'm around. I'm still here. I'm not gone. And so from a investigator, paranormal researcher type perspective, that's where I came and said, okay, here is everything I experienced during the investigations. Here's what limited information you gave me. Let's put these together and see how this paints a picture. And then 9 times out of 10, the family members, the person affected, will say, well, this happened during this time and this makes sense because XYZ happened in the past. Or they will give validity to it or an explanation 9 times out of 10 of things I never personally knew. But to that individual, things made more sense. And what I always found interesting is more times than not, when the evidence review time came and everything was laid out and that person got to digest everything, things would die down at the residence or home or location, wherever things were happening. And it was almost as if these individuals that would experience things, it was just something, someone, somewhere was reaching out to try to communicate, to say, hey. And that seems to be the reoccurring theme a lot from things I've been a part of, is to facilitate passing messages or putting logic together or tracing everything to make it make sense for that individual that's experiencing these things. Because a lot of times, to call it like it is, and it's like TV, that you see things on TV, it scares the crap out of people. It's not mystical and magical and lighthearted and fun and nice. I mean, come on. It's 2 a.m. and you hear a voice, or you hear a crash, or you think you feel something brush up against your arm and you're laying in bed by yourself. You know, all these experiences aren't going to be taken with an open heart and say, oh, this is so and so, or this happened because of this or that reason. 9 times out of 10, the person's going to be sitting there sweating bullets, panicking, freaked out, emotionally distraught. And unfortunately, more times than not, that initial instance is going to paint the picture going forward, emotionally, tying it to setting the mindset, basically.
Well,
So,
you always when you talk about so like when you have random attachments, which is I think what the person was asking about. So you have your normal attachments which you were getting into, which is, past loved ones or somebody watching over you. They will always be following. Everybody has that I've noticed. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I came across a certain person today, and it was a young girl, and I sensed that something was attached to her. And so I asked, I said, "Well, how long have you had your imaginary friend?" And she said, you know, "Well, we moved from here to here, and I've known her for a few days or whatever." But the weird thing is that they already have this trust between them. So I said, "Well, what's your imaginary friend? What's it's a young girl, of course. Not going to say an age or a name, but it's like, what does she look like, or what is the name?" And she goes, "I don't know the name, but she always appears either as a bumblebee or a butterfly." But the thing is, I don't think that this this girl had an attachment before. I think it came from the new place. So it didn't actually follow her, but it did. This thing is actually attached. Now, of course, I'm out here on the road. I run into a lot of things. And she said, even when I'm away from the house, sometimes it'll appear and talk to me for a brief moment, and then it runs back to where we live. Which again, I'm thinking, okay, the strength is where it's from. It built up enough strength to be able to come and communicate with the little girl and then go back. But that's a random attachment. Where I'm going also is where you were kind of going is attachments of loved ones.
yep,
They will always follow. Everybody has something follow them around. That's what I was getting at. But the loved ones that are watching over you, trying to protect you, basically your guardian angel, sort of say, they will always follow you. Those entities will always follow you because again, you're the energy source. You're the family member. It could be somebody way down in your tree, like in the 1800s, that you know for some reason is still kicking around, and they've been tasked to watch over you, or however it works. We're not sure about that. This is just our opinion on how we're putting stuff together, but to watch over you. So those entities are constantly following people. Those are the ones I pick up on. Those are the ones that I get tired of listening to because I don't want to hear. I'm like, hey, tell them this, tell them that. It kind of it kind of gets crazy. I got to shut myself down. So, but the random attachments, it's just a rare thing for them to be able to follow you to other locations. Now, not saying that you could go to another location and another entity could attach from that place, could attach to you and kind of see what you went through and then start replaying what you went through. I've kind of been thinking like on some investigations that I've been on that happens. Like somehow the other entity, the new one, knows kind of what the other one went through, so they start reenacting what the other one went through a little bit,
like
but
a
it's a little different.
like a mimic.
Right, like a mimic. So it's one of those things that we honestly, I mean, to be honest with people, I don't really know. I just go by things I've been told from other people doing investigations, other investigators I've talked to that do investigations, even your top-notch investigators, the ones that that's all they do is like if they got the money and they just go out and investigate every day. So they're good people to talk to because to me they're like a tier level A. If I could get out there and just do investigations all the time, then fine. But these people have a lot more experience. I got experience, you've got experience, but these people are like ridiculously experienced. And I listen to what they say. I listen to what I'm going to say the client says when they ask us to come to their house and check things out. Or like I listened to this little girl today for a while talking about because it concerns me because the father does have a child that has, you know, autism, I believe it is. And we know about that, right? We know how stuff tries to attach itself to kids with autism because they're kind of weak in a way. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but to the spirit, they're just kind of weak, and they're able to trick them. If I can say it, they're able to trick them a little easier. But this little girl, at first she kind of thought, "Oh, I made her up. I made her up in my mind." I said, "No, you did." I said, "Come on, be honest. You met her, the new place, and then she started talking and then telling me." So that's a random attachment once again. Now, just real quick, a lot of spirits and ghosts in my research will attach themselves for just a couple different things. Unfinished business is one. We all know about unfinished business. That's one of the biggest things why they say that these entities are still around that they have to still accomplish. But they say that they may have unresolved issues or tasks that they feel compelled to complete before moving on. We know that, right? So that's with, I guess, the person that they're attached to. So it could be even seeking justice for wrongdoing or delivering a message, which you just mentioned, delivering a message. Or we can go to guidance, like they can attach themselves to you to help guide you through something. You also have emotional attachment. They basically are getting with individuals due to strong emotional ties. This could be a loved one or who passed away and wants to remain close. Now, we just said that, right? The loved ones that are following you around. So if you want to call that instead of your guardian angel, call that person an emotional attachment because that person passed away, wants to remain close to their family, or so the spirit attaches themselves to a particular place or object that holds sentimental values. Now, you also have one of the things that I talk about a lot is negative energy. In some cases, ghosts may be drawn to individuals or places that emit negative energy. Now, all the time, I'm going to tell you that a lot of times negative energy does not mean that it's negative. Not all negative energy is negative. A lot of negative energy is positive. It's just the word that everybody looks at. So this can be a history of trauma, violence, or intense emotional distress. Negative energy can act as a magnet for spirits, attracting them and causing them to attach themselves to the person or location. So if anything, like you remember we talked about locations, let's say asylums. There's a lot of dark stuff going on there. The shock treatment, people dying, passing away. There's a lot of stuff there that could be negative for stuff to attach itself to. You also have seeking help and guidance. Now, these may basically attach themselves to individuals for help or guidance that may be lost or confused. And then the last one is intentional attachment. In rare cases, intentionally attaching themselves to individuals. Now, this is what I would consider my random attachment, where the spirit intentionally attaches itself. It can be out of malice or a desire to cause harm. These attachments are often referred to as, well, here comes the D word, demonic or malevolent spirits. They may feed off the negative energy of their host or seek to manipulate and control them. Now, that is when I speak about random attachments, I don't always speak about the D word or anything malevolent. Now, that can happen. I mean, Pax, how many people do you know that we've talked to where something malevolent, let's just say, let's not go biblical. Let's just go malevolent. And they say, "Man, my life just turned upside down." How many cases do you think we've dealt with where they lost their job or I hate to say it, like the wife, went away and they don't know why. Like
I would say honestly a good 30%.
it's a lot.
30%. And when I say that, I say that sparingly, but when you look at the totality of it, of just investigating homes, businesses, you know, property that's not even where a home is, just people think, oh, hokey stuff's going on, but And the totality of it, you got someone losing their livelihood, that lost their job, lost their family, lost their finances, lost their sanity. I'm not saying any of this lightly. This is literal. And more times than not, these poor individuals end up doing research, and then that's how they find individuals that are professional, like me and Dalton, that will help somebody. We're usually the last stepping stone for somebody to try to get answers, because they'll usually do all the tried and true methods, rather it's faith based or using logic or different self help measures or whatever it is. The
Or just not even having the understanding of what's going on, so they ignore it.
yeah, or
They
that
just
too.
think it's all in their head,
Yep, that
like,
too.
"Oh, it's in my head."
And don't
Yeah.
even bring it up to anybody. Don't ask for help. Don't gut check. Don't say, "Hey, did you hear that too?" Or so it's
Yeah, and then it builds up to poltergeist, and then they got dishes being thrown at them, doors moving, cabinets opening, weird voices coming out of the cellar, shadow figures, and then all of a sudden they go, "Hey, I think that we got a problem."
I mean, I know Dalton just read the list there and sounded like a cliche, but the sad truth is I have been to places where all of those things separately have happened and numerous of those things have happened. So it's real. It's
Well, it's very real. It's very, very real. Regardless of how many people say we belong in a fruit farm, I don't care. You weren't there. You weren't there. You didn't see what I seen. You didn't go through what I went through, or what you went through, or what anybody investigating went through at that moment. So the fear, a lot of attachment is fear. So
yeah.
and because the fear, a lot of times they feed off fear. A lot of these entities will feed off the fear. That's why they try to scare you. So when you got a person standing in front of me that says, or you could be standing in front of both of us, whatever, and they're saying no, that's ridiculous. And while you're talking to them, or I'm talking to them, or we're both whatever, I'm kind of standing there looking at them and then reading them, and I'm like, yeah, you've had a paranormal experience, and the only reason you don't want to admit it because it scares you, and that's understandable. That's understandable. If you wake up in the middle of the night and there's something standing in your bedroom in the corner with little beady red eyes or yellow eyes or no eyes at all, but you can make out there's something standing there, and the thing is 8 foot tall and it looks freaky as crap, and you don't know, yes, you're going to go in the bathroom and change your drawers because that's what happens. You're scared. It's typical. It's your mind. It's your body. It's human nature to be that way. It's understandable.
Yeah.
But if that thing happens, then notify somebody. Don't wash it off that, oh, I just watched a scary movie and now I'm just having a lightweight dream of being awake and I'm kind of seeing something. No, if it happens a little bit more than once, then you might want to say something to somebody and talk about it and try to fix it, because obviously it's like an ant problem. You know, you're at the sink, you're washing dishes, and you see a couple of ants crawl across the counter, and you're like, yeah, whatever, and you kill them or you shoot them out the window or do whatever. And then next day, you see 3 or 4, and you're still like, oh, now this goes on for, I don't know, months. And the next thing you know, you open up the bottom cabinet under the sink to get something, and you have a whole colony of these ants under there. Because why? Because you didn't bother to spray, call a bug man. you know, you just overlooked it and let it go. Like, oh, that's a freak thing. No, no, don't do that. that's just that's just crazy. But I do want to say that a lot of this, even back in the Egyptians, we talked about the Egyptians, and they had a strong belief in an experience of Ka, a spiritual double born with every man. They believed that Ka could roam free, attaching itself to objects, or people. This belief led to the creation of the elaborate tombs and the way that the rites to appease and contain the Ka. So basically, when they did the funeral and they do the processions on how the rituals, if you want to say, on how they bury somebody. Eastern Chinese, long history, ancestor worship, which stems from the belief that spirits of the deceased continue to influence the lives of the living during the Hungry Ghost Festival. Now, I will say something about the Orient, and you might have seen it in a bunch of movies where they actually set the mirrors by their windows
Yep, I've seen it.
so that you know what that's called. I forget what it's called.
Entrapment.
Right. So that, well, if you want to say that, but they got an actual name for it. You can probably Google it, but it's actually to keep the spirits away at bay because they say that some of the spirits, especially the Orients, some of the spirits are from past family members that they got lucky and got past that entity. Well, that entity followed it up the tree line, and so let's say the dad just had a newborn child, and he'll set those little octagon mirrors in front of the windows because he's afraid that whatever is following him might go after his child. That's real deal stuff right there. Now you go to the Native American tribes, they had unique beliefs about spiritual attachment. For instance, the Navajo people believe in Shindy, which we talked about, a residual spirit left after death that can cause illness or death if it attaches itself to the living. Also, if you remember the Navajo, what do we talk about with the Navajo? Skinwalkers, right? So
Yep.
a lot of stuff with Native Americans. Now
So
you fast forward to the.
go ahead.
Let me say this. Let me say this one more thing. If you fast forward to like the Middle Ages in Europe, where the belief in ghosts and spirits was widespread, it was thought that these beings could attach themselves to people, causing a variety of ailments and misfortunes. We just talked about that, right? That's why I wanted to jump to that.
Yep.
This belief was so strong that it led to the establishment of various rituals and practices to ward off these spirits. Now, while practicing like a greatly different cultures and time periods, the underlying concept remains the same. Spirits or ghosts can attach themselves to the living. This enduring belief, passed down through generations, continues to intrigue and mystify us today, leading to wealth of personal accounts, scientific investigations, which you know me, I don't really like the scientific part, and a thriving field of paranormal research is what we do. So, just to touch base on a few of those things too, I just wanted to get that out there.
So that more or less finishes up the segment on, do we think things can follow you from point A to point B? Now here comes the more lighthearted part of the podcast. We're just going to jump on in to why me and Dalton do what we do with investigating. I can give you a million reasons why I do it. I'm sure you can give me a ton, but what are some of the reasons why you investigate, Dalton? Why you still stick with it? Why you still help out random people? You know, you don't need to, but you do.
Well, I'm
And
going to let you answer that. I just did a whole lot of talking. You answer. You go first, and I'll answer after you because I'm pretty sure our stuff's along the same lines anyway.
well, as for myself, it's kind of interesting. You know, the paranormal aspect of my experiences predominantly revolved around when I was on various teams or I went out and investigated myself, and it segued from just doing it individual and learning and splunking and seeing what worked and didn't to then becoming more established and being on a team to being a lead investigator of a really big team. And then I started getting my feet wet and I'm like, hey, you know, maybe I got a knack for this. And over time, I really learned and realized that anything and everything I do with the paranormal, it's something that is subjective and objective at the same time. You can definitively say, oh, if you don't apply this logic or mindset or theory or concept, it's wrong. But then the other half is equally why apply a theory, logic, concept, because there's so much you can't definitively prove. It's up in the air. So one of the big things that I enjoy is the fact that there's so much out there in the world about the paranormal that people just don't know. And that gives me the ability to not put on, a hat, metaphorically speaking, and go off the tried and true logical explanation of everything or try to talk it out and make it make sense. It gives me the ability to say, well, why is it like this? Or why is it like that? Or let me look at it with a different lens on this viewpoint. And the thing I've noticed is that creativity and open mindedness allows me to make correlations with things and tie things together that I believe a person normally wouldn't do. You know, if you're taught one method of doing something for a process and you're told that's how it is, that's all you're going to do, and you're just going to keep running in circles. Well, with this, the sky's the limit. I can apply metaphysical concepts, I can apply, scientific concepts, I can apply theory in general, I can apply physics. I mean, I could do all sorts of things for thinking about things and deconstructing things to help identify and give answers or solutions. I could apply different varied forms of religion. I could make equipment, which I've done in the past a lot, to say, hey, here's a good idea. Let me try making this to see if I can help push this particular concept that I thought of to see what results it yields. But ultimately, over this path that I have inadvertently put myself on, which started a long, long, long time ago by learning things that had nothing to do with the paranormal, I built myself up. And the thing for myself personally, to where I say, this is why I am in it, ultimately, is it's not so much for the interaction to be like, hey, I just had something grab me, and bruise the crap out of my arm, or I had something scratch me going down my back or down my leg, or I had bad energy in me. And, not to be blunt, but I'm sick in bed for 2 days or in the bathroom, for a week, or I can't eat anything, or I've lost a bunch of weight. I don't look at it going, those are the reasons why. Those are after effects of it that a lot of people don't talk about, but us being human beings, it affects us psychologically, emotionally, and mentally, and physically. The biggest thing that I find most rewarding out of being an investigator and researcher is being able to give clarity to people that are in a time of disarray, strife, misunderstanding, and usually fear. And it's not has nothing to do with a savior complex or saying, I get a rise out of this. No. It's about helping. It's about saying, here's some information that I have that I may be able to give you that might make what your life has been to give you some understanding. And it's the equivalent and same in my book as if somebody was in a bad hurricane or flooding or storm, and then you see a family or a neighbor down the street or someone that's just walking and they're in need of something. I don't do this to make a buck. I don't do this for notoriety. I don't do this to put my name on the board, per se. I don't do this for any extrinsic reason, which means anything that I can gain personally out of it and benefit from. I do it strictly for the intrinsic reason of just helping somebody out of the betterment of myself. And that's it. And it's a very simple thing to do, but what's wild and crazy is by me wanting just to help people, the amount of things that I have experienced in the paranormal world, the amount of things that I have seen, I have heard, I have felt, the stories I've seen, it blows my mind away. It easily tops anything anybody will ever see on TV or in a movie. And I really believe it's one of those things to where something or somebody somewhere, somehow is looking down at me going, this person's not doing this for all these reasons. So we're going to open up Pandora's box and let them really be a part of it. I suppose and can equate it to like anything anybody does in life, like a hobby. You do it because you enjoy it, because it does something for you. I do it to get away from my normal life sometimes of the daily grind of work, or doing the honeydew list or doing chores around the house or, you know, everything that life normally has. It's my escape of getting away and just relaxing. Some people say, "Oh, it's you enjoy the hunt." It's not that I'm hunting, but I enjoy the experience. And I notice every single time I finish with an investigation or I have a paranormal experience, it adds another chapter to me personally that helps me understand a scenario or situation for the future. And that will give me the ability to help other people in the future by what I just learned. So I know that's kind of a long answer, but that's in a nutshell, loosely why I enjoy being an investigator and a researcher and being part of the paranormal world. It's not anything I ever said to myself and woke up and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." Life just happened and things fell in place and here I am. So with that being said, what about you, Dalton? What's the unvarnished, true to heart reasons why you're part of the paranormal world?
Somebody said fire, and I just ran to it. So, yeah.
Sounds about
Uh,
right.
man, I don't want to get too personal about it, but I have mentioned that I've been dealing with this since I was born for some reason.
Yep.
Why I don't know. Why I don't know. There was a lot of not understanding of it when I was young, and back then there was very few people you could talk to about it. So you were kind of stuck in your own little box, trying to figure out what you're listening to, what you're hearing. You going crazy, are you 10, 11, 12 years old, and you're like, I'm already insane. I belong in a fruit house, man. I'm hearing things, and I don't know why I'm hearing things until one day, some things that I was listening to dealt with my family. And then I started to think about it. And I'm like, okay, well, what do we got going on here? Because what am I listening to? And why am I hearing it? And then I'm seeing it. Astral projection is another thing. I'm an astral projector. So that's another thing that kind of got to me. I thought I was dreaming. And for the longest time, up until my 20s, until I realized that I'm actually doing outer body experiences. And then when all the stuff came out on TV and you can actually talk about it, and then you got more people you can talk to, and you start understanding what it is that's going on with you, why you're hearing things or seeing things or going through certain things. Well, then that became an interest to me. I guess because, like magicians, what makes a person want to be a magician? It's the illusion they create, right? Now, now don't get me wrong now. I'm not saying that paranormal is an illusion, but why do they do it though? It's a tough thing to master, basically, to understand and to create the best illusion that you possibly can, right? And I mean, I don't know if I'm putting out a good scenario here because then people are going to be like, oh, you're a illusion, but as a paranormal investigator, when I found out what was going on and I found out what was happening, I'm like, this intrigued me enough to become a professional in it, to be able the number one thing, and you mentioned it, number one thing I always say why we do this is to help people. Now, I'm not going to harp on that because we already know. I've said it before, you said it before. The reason we do this is to help people. Now you go to the second thing. Let's talk about intriguing, something that not everybody let's say this, everybody can do it, but don't have the abilities like me and you have. Like you have certain abilities that you use. I have a bunch that I use. Sensory, hearing, blah blah blah. So
Hey, just
for me,
one thing real quick. Just want to interject. you speak of abilities. Me and Dalton have spoke very, very deeply on this. Just to put it out there, these abilities, these things for both of us that we've never read a book about to just learn. They are just natural to us. So you can learn these things, but they're just
I
there.
don't. Well, let's say this. Everybody has an ability. Everybody has abilities. It's just if you want to open your mind, if you're able to open up your mind to that chapter, to that Rolodex, that file in your brain, because we mentioned it before. You only use a certain amount of your brain. So what do psychic and mediums use? What do people like me that astral project and do the things that we do? What percentage of the brain do I use, or do you use, or people with any ability use, compared to people that don't have a? Well, they do, but they don't. It hasn't been opened yet. Because they shut it down. You had it when you was a child. When you were a kid, you were more accepted to paranormal. Even your kids are probably talking to imaginary friends, and that's all you think they are. But legitimately, they're probably really talking to somebody, a past loved one, or grandfather, whoever. And the thing is, when you were a child, you had a lot of that opened up for you. You just decided to forget about it and shut it down and not worry about it because I mean, let's just say that's not what you say, Pax, is your everyday table talk. You don't sit down and say, "Oh, well, I seen the ghost of John Henry walk through the bathroom the other day and went outside the back and was doing whatever." No, it. Nobody talks about it because you don't. You just don't. Now, me and you talk about it because we're in the same thing. But our abilities of what we do is intriguing. Now, past intriguing, I'm going to go to fun. When I mean fun, I mean I like riding roller coaster. I'm an older dude. I ain't gonna lie. I'm 53 years old, and I still get on some of the scariest roller coasters you can get on. Why? Because of the adrenaline, and it's fun. It's fun to do. So when I do paranormal investigations, outside of number one, helping people, that's my first major goal. Probably in 75 to 80 percentile range is going to be helping the people that ask us to come check out what's going on. Two, everything that I do and see or hear is intriguing to me, so I'm going to keep going. And you know how I am. I come in six shooters blazing if need be, or I come in very patient and quiet and see what happens.
I don't ever equate the phrasing patient and quiet to you. Are we talking about the same person right now?
Well, because I sit there for 5 minutes with my mouth shut. That's patient and quiet. Uh,
Oh, I got you.
so, but then the third one is fun. Like I have fun doing it. I have fun. First of all, learning what is actually haunting the place, or finding out the history of the person that is haunting the place, or finding out about the place itself. If we're not doing a private investigation, we're doing a commercialized building or a Civil War battlefield, which is anything Civil War is my favorite, of course. But the fun of it, the actual fun of going, you wouldn't do this sitting on your couch watching Hallmark or whatever TV show you want to watch, Love Boat or Fantasy Island. I know, I'm showing my age real quick, but you're not going to learn anything sitting there watching the TV. So I enjoy. It's fun for me to get out and learn things. It also helps me hone in my paranormal abilities we both gain more experience. But it's fun to interact with people that were living in a past time that I was not privy to, like say the West, the Civil War. Heck, we did Ashley's restaurant or whatever in Rockford, and we caught some World War I or World War II pilots that were in the
It
hospital.
was Ashley's Pub.
Yes, and across the street was a hospital,
Yep.
and we were picking up on a pilot that was sent there, and we thought he was a pilot from the airfield from the Air Force down the road, but he was actually a World War I or World War II pilot.
Yep.
That was probably stationed at the Air Force base there. I think that base has been around that long. So I mean, it's hard for me to explain it to anybody Why I do it, I guess I did because it's intriguing. Number one, helping people. I cannot express that very much. I'm not in it for the dollar. Neither one of us are in it for the. We don't charge people to do this. They ask us to come check things out, and we spend our own money, our own time, and we go check it out, and we try to help them. And when we accomplish that goal, it's a very huge accomplishment, and you go home feeling good about yourself. And then the intriguing part, all of it is intriguing. Every point, every corner, every turn. I guess the adrenaline and the fear and the fun of it. Going into a haunted asylum, never been there before, don't know much about it. Could be a trickery thing. You're going to have people that tell you the story of the place, but you go in, you're finding out a little something deeper, a little something darker, and a little something different. And that's not their fault. They just didn't know because they don't investigate. They just work there. We go in and we find stuff, and it's fun for me to come back and say, "Hey, did you know this about this place or this about this place?" And then every now and then you get somebody, "Oh, I heard about it. We never really researched it, but hey, thanks for letting us know that. We can add that to our little tour thing, our little tour speech." And I don't know. I don't scare very easy. I will say I do not swim in the ocean because if I can't see it coming, I don't want nothing to do with it. So that might be my fear. But as far as walking into a haunted place, a haunted asylum, a prison, whatever it may be, dark, it can be turned into slight biblical, which we've done. It's very rare that we run into a biblical section of demonic, more dark, more evil, like just sinister people that were living. They were sinister. When you hear that voice pop up, I'm excited. Other people are running. You turn around, half the group's gone. Me and Pax are going, "Hey, let's go this way." Everybody's going, "No, we're going this way." We run to it. Don't know why, honestly. I mean, maybe it is the adrenaline or it's very dangerous to do. We've talked about that, how dangerous it is to do. But I was kind of pushed into it when I was born. I mean, I can't say that I just got into it. I just been dealing with it for a very long time. And when I figured out what it was, I thought, okay, well, this is cool. This is a kind of break the monotony thing. Like I love music. Music is a freedom of the soul. But paranormal investigating for me is something I can shut the world out, shut it down, and then go solve a puzzle. I guess maybe that's kind of part of it. Solving the puzzle, solving the problem. You're that way too, Pax. You like solving problems. And I think that's what draws the both of us to it is the problem solving, figuring out if what we're talking to is actually what it is that it says it is, and it's not trying to play games. And the gear, man, getting the gear, cameras, all that stuff. And then when you catch a shadow figure or you catch an apparition, a colored apparition, or you catch movement, it's exciting. It's I don't know if you want to say invigorating, but it's exciting. And like I said, I can hear a deep growl, guttural voice be like, "Get up." People are running. I'm like, "All right, bro, I'm coming over there. What's up?" You wanna you told me to get out. I ain't going nowhere, son. I'm walking to you. What you got to say about it? Now, yes, the danger persists. The getting scratched. I've been pushed downstairs. I've been slapped in the face and the back and tripped in the leg where I almost fell. I mean, yes, the physical contact that does happen, and it is real. It is very real that they can manipulate and touch you. Going home, on the way home, sometimes being drained from it because I let them use my energy and they drain me. And then going home 2 o'clock in the morning, and Pax will tell you, me and him both trying to drive home, 2 hours away or something because we're like, it's nothing. We get there, it's more than what we thought. And we're trying to get home and we're tired because we're drained, but we just help people. We might be tired and we might be drained and we might be physically, emotionally stressed out, but we're happy. Why? Because we help people. We just help them. They got a more understanding of what's happening. They feel more comfortable. Either we've swooshed it out or made it to where it doesn't come in the house no more and bother them, or the entity just decided to leave on its own, or it's not nothing to bother them. It's friendly, and they accept the fact that it's there and they welcome it with open arms.
Yep.
But we help them. So I know I went from left field, right field, center field, back to home plate, but that's kind of the gist of why I do things, why I love it. I do love it. That's why we're on here doing this podcast. We don't get paid to do this. This is us taking the time to get out here and share our experiences and our thoughts and our opinions on things. We've said it before. We're just kind of tired of certain things, shows and stuff that are just, basically they're not allowed to show certain things. I know that. But a lot of them, they don't tell the whole story. They don't tell, they try. There's a certain person, he tried to sit down on a one-on-one episodes and stuff and try to go kind of into a personal aspect of it, but I don't know. But this is me and Pax, and that's what we're here to talk about. It's me and Pax, and we do it because we love it, and we love helping people. We love trying to figure stuff out, problem solving, and then, like I said, the fun of it, the intriguing part, the excitement, the adrenaline of entities and spirits that you can't see. That most people would be like, "Yeah, I'm not going into there." Okay, well, you hang out right here. We'll be in there, and we'll come back and tell you what just happened. you know.
Yep.
So I hope that kind of sums it up. I had a kind of a long answer myself, and I didn't mean to go off on a little tantrum there, but
No, that's good, man.
it
Speaking from the heart and the soul, So
well, that's the way we are. We're no BS. We don't beat around the bush. We're not trying to. I mean, we're putting it out there as forward as we can.
And that right there is one of the things that you've gotten lots of feedback on, and I have, is it sounds like, at least from the feedback, that a lot of people that listen, and we do appreciate all of our listeners, that we're kind of not like everything else that they hear for podcasts, because a lot of podcasts get into different stuff and sometimes segue and this and that. And as you know, we try to get right down to it, right to the brass tacks, nuts and bolts of stuff, and try to make it to where everybody can learn a little something every podcast.
And don't get us wrong. We're not trying to knock any other podcast. If you enjoy listening to another paranormal podcast, more power to you. I mean, if they're talking your language or something you want to listen to, that's fine. But we have had a lot of and I'm going to say it this way. Let me put it this way for the people. The feedback that we get basically says, you guys sound like just two guys sitting at a coffee table drinking coffee and shooting the crap, like we're just telling war stories or something. And basically, this is not rehearsed. What we do here is not rehearsed at all. I drive a truck. I'm on the road. He does his job, and he's used to live down the road from me. I live across the state now, but he does his thing, and we get on here. And what other people like is how this is so legit, because we're coming right off of our experiences or things that we have researched in the past for certain topics. But this is not rehearsed by no means at all. And so the feedback, I'm just going to say it like this, and not to step on Pax's toes or anything. We never try to do that. We do disagree with each other, but I'm just going to put it out there a little like we're just two guys sitting here shooting the crap, and we're telling war stories about paranormal, or we're just telling stories about the paranormal. And we appreciate you listening to us shoot the crap, basically. So we thank you.
Yeah, we definitely thank all of our listeners. We know, obviously, me and Dalton, we got two very distinct, different personalities and viewpoints in the way we go about explaining things, talking about things, interjecting with each other and saying, I don't know about that. But the whole point is that we do this as a way to put our experiences out there. That was our first and foremost goal, is to say, hey, let's tell people how it really is, because we just got tired of everything we saw on podcasts and TV shows and movies representing the paranormal in a certain light. And we just were like, we've been through so much. It doesn't hurt to let people hear a blunt reality of it that maybe have not had experiences, or maybe had, but never wanted to tell anybody. So we hope you can listen to our podcast, take away something a little from it, enjoy them, and try not to laugh too much at Dalton's long replies and answers on things, because I know he likes to talk.
Well, the one thing, if anything, we get out of this podcast is if you want somebody to talk to about an issue, talk to us. We're an open book. If you need help, email us. We got a Facebook page, Theory Paranormal. I appreciate everybody checking it out. I've seen a lot of views on a daily basis. Please give us a like. Give us a like. And I normally don't push that, but if you're going to come visit, give us a like and check it out because we're going to have some evidence popping up as soon as we can get to some investigations, hopefully by the end of this year. But what I want people to take from this is that if you've had an experience and you don't know anybody to talk to, you don't know how to talk to somebody, well, here we are. Come chat with us and send us an email and say, "Hey, I've had this experience. What do you think?" And we can tell you personally. We don't have to put it out here on the air. Or if you don't mind us putting it out on the air, we can put it out on the air and give you an answer. Or if you have an idea of a podcast that's something you're interested in and you want us to talk about, we'll turn the podcast into your question. No problem. So not only do people understand what we do and like the way we do it, but I do want to kind of throw that out there that, if you ain't got nobody to talk to, just come talk to us. That's all. We're here. So it's easy.
And if you ever did have anything you wanted to ask us, you can email us at info@theoryparanormal.com and we'll get back to you after we can review it and stew over it and figure out what we could do for you. So it's about that time, Dalton. That ends our podcast number. Well, I said podcast number 12 of season 2.
End of season 2, man.
Or actually, it's podcast 24. Depends on which way you want to look at it. And next podcast, we got some surprises going to be announced. And we appreciate all the listeners that have been listening all over the world. We're actually a global podcast. We're not a regional to a particular part of the world. I can verify we've had people in Alaska listen to us, North America, South America, Asia, Europe. I'm not going to list all the countries right now because literally that would probably have to make me go through about 70 to 80 countries. So everybody,
global's global.
Yep. So everybody that's listened to us, listen to an episode, listen to us for 2 minutes only, listen to us for every podcast. We definitely appreciate your support, and we have more great things coming in the future. So
look forward to get season 3 going.
Yep. So with that being said, as we always say here at Theory Paranormal, don't be afraid to ask questions.